All right, my friends, today we are exploring the parts of a plant, and you get to see those in this book, plus a bunch of other really interesting things that I want you to listen to about plants and how plants work. Okay, but in particular, I want you to look for what are the parts of a plant and what do they do. All right, we're not reading this whole book, we're just going to read certain pages, but it will have all of the information that you need. You see the seeds on this page? So grow up. A seed is a pocket-sized plant. It contains everything that a plant has: leaves, stems, and roots, plus food or nutrients for the time the plant is inside the seed. Some seeds can lie around for years waiting for the right conditions to grow. To start growing, a seed needs air, water, and the right temperature. The seed absorbs air and water, which makes it swell and split. Then the first roots break through. So you can see that here. Here's the seed that hasn't started growing yet. It's just starting to split. Then it opens up and the first roots come down. Then the first leaves that were in that seed push up. Then it begins to grow its own leaves. As soon as the leaves are out, they begin to catch sunlight. You see here these leaves? And that helps them make their own food. Now the plant has grown, the seed will shrivel because it's no longer needed. So see down here, we don't have that seed anymore because it's not needed. Putting down roots. You see the roots on the different plants on this page? Roots do two things. They anchor plants. That means keep them stuck where they're supposed to be growing, and keep them secure, and they absorb water and food. So they anchor them and keep them secure, which means to keep them in place from falling over or blowing away, and they absorb water and food. Some roots have weird and wonderful ways of doing this. See here in this picture, roots can only grow where there's water. Tree roots near the surface grow outwards up to 4 times the width of the tree. So if you laid that tree down on its side, the roots could grow to be 4 times as long as that tree. Other roots can dig down deep enough to break through sewers, which is pipes that carry the wastewater away from our houses. Over here, do you see this kind of funny plant with its funny roots? These are mangroves, and they live in swamps, which is a wetland. Their huge prop roots support the stems to stop them from being washed away. The tangled roots also trap mud, which has nutrients for the tree. They also stick up out of the water to get air because remember we talked about in wetlands, there's no air down in the dirt because it's so saturated with water. So one adaptation for the mangroves is that these roots up here that stick out of the water help them get the air that they need. Food factories. Plants are unique. They are the only living things that make their own food. This process is called photosynthesis, which can only happen in the daytime because it uses sunlight. Leaves take in sunlight, carbon dioxide from the air, and water from the roots and mix them together using chlorophyll. This recipe makes glucose, a type of sugar for the plant to eat, and oxygen. So, this is another part, right? We just looked at the roots. Now we're looking at leaves, right? And the leaves of a plant catch the sunlight and they mix it with carbon dioxide from the air, which is actually the waste that comes out of our body through our breath. It's the stuff that it's one of the things that we can't use. So we breathe out carbon dioxide and plants breathe in carbon dioxide because that's what they need to make their food. And then they make sugar called glucose that they use to help grow, and that's their food. And then they breathe out oxygen, which is what we need. Isn't that cool how what we breathe out, the plants need and they breathe in, and then they breathe out the oxygen that we need to breathe in. All right, and do you see these little kind of holes here? So this is a really blown up picture of the bottom of a leaf. Carbon dioxide used in photosynthesis is taken in through the stomata, tiny holes in the surface of every leaf. So these holes right here are called stomata, and right now they're open. They take in the carbon dioxide through those holes, and then they let out the oxygen through those holes as well. All right. We're going to go to our next page. Pollination. Do you know what pollination is? Okay, so here is another part of our plant. What is this part called? This is the flower. Okay, so watch a patch of flowers on a summer's day and you will soon see a butterfly or a bee. Many flowers need these insects for pollination, the transfer of pollen from plant to plant. So a plant needs pollen from a different plant's flower in order to grow seeds. That's what pollination is moving pollen from this flower to this flower so that it can grow seeds. So pollination happens when pollen from one plant's anthers, these things that are sticking up here, okay, like little sticks, have pollen, which is like tiny dust. And when a pollinator lands on that, it picks up some of that pollen from these anthers and it carries it to the next flower. And this very tallest stick that's kind of bigger in this flower is called a stigma. It's different from the anthers, and it's where the pollen is collected. The pollen then goes down into the heart of the flower where the ovary is, and that's where the eggs are that create the seeds. So when the pollen goes down the stigma and into the ovaries, then seeds are created. Over here, do you see the difference between these two flowers? This is actually the same flower. So this flower looks plain yellow to us, but insects can see ultraviolet light. This shows up patterns on flowers called nectar guides. they point out exactly where the nectar is in the flower, leading insects straight to it. So see how the outer part of this is a lighter blue and then it's darker towards the center. So that shows the insects that this inside part is where the nectar is, and that's where they want them to go. They're where they want to go. All right, going to seed. Flowering plants reproduce by making seeds, which happens after a plant has been pollinated. So we talked about pollinating, right? And then after the plant has been pollinated, it makes seeds. Seeds are valuable and need protecting. So a plant will grow fruit to cover over the seed. So an apple is an example of that. Do you see the seeds here in the center? And it grew this fruit around it to protect those seeds, and to make sure that they survive and that they can make it to the ground and grow a new tree. Over here, do you see the sunflower? So a sunflower is made up of lots of little flowers. So see all of this in the middle of the sunflower? Those are tons of little individual flowers. See, there's an individual flower, and there's one, and there's one, okay? And each of those individual flowers makes a seed when it is pollinated. There are around 1,000 seeds inside just one sunflower head. Every seed is surrounded by its own case to protect it. So those seeds need to get spread. Plants spread their seeds so that they can grow in new places. This is called seed dispersal. It gives the seeds a chance to find sunlight, water, and food that are not already being used by the parent plant or other seeds. Impatiens. So this is an impatient right here, and this is the plant that you got from me in your packet this week. So impatiens are a group of garden plants, sometimes called touch-me-nots. Their seed pods are ready to burst at the slightest touch. So if your impatient goes to seed, right? If it were to get pollinated and then develop seeds, if you were to touch those seed pods, they would burst at the slightest touch and the seeds fly out of those pods, but they don't actually go very far. You see over here, these burrs travel far away from the parent plant by sticking like Velcro to animals or people as they walk through next to the plants. Some seeds pass right through the animal that eats them. So this animal is eating these berries, and then it's going to move on to somewhere else. And as the animal digests its food, the seed is going to come out in the poo and land somewhere else and then be able to grow. Some seeds are designed to fly. So you can see the dandelion here. Its seeds fly. It's got this fluffy part that catches the wind and flies away. And these are propeller-shaped seeds so that when they fall from the tree, they also catch the wind and fly away from the tree. Some seeds float. This is actually a coconut, which is one of the largest seeds. And they are hollow and light enough to float, so they fall into water and then float away from the original tree. Oops, we skipped a page. All life on Earth depends on plants. Even those animals that just eat meat eat other animals who feed on plants. People have been growing plants for food for thousands of years. So over here, you can see this fruit that is kind of funny looking. This is actually the fruit of a cocoa tree, and these white seeds inside are dried out and ground, and that is actually what we turn into chocolate. So this turns into this eventually. But without sugar added, it is really bitter. That's what we tried when we did our taste testing earlier in the school year, and we tried that cocoa powder that smelled really good like chocolate, but without any sugar added, it is really bitter. Over here you can see wheat being harvested. Wheat is the world's most widely grown plant. It is found on every continent except for Antarctica. It's a type of grass called a cereal, which means that it has seeds that can be made into flour. This group of cereals it also includes oats and maize and rice. A vegetable is a plant that grows to be eaten. So we call certain foods vegetables, and those are plants that we eat. But some of them are the fruit of the plant, some of them are the seed of a plant, some of them are the roots of a plant, some are the leaves of a plant, and some are the stalks of a plant. So let's see. Seeds might be things like peas. Roots come out of the carrot. So a carrot is a root. Stalks are things like celery, and leaves are things like lettuce. So we actually eat all of the different parts of plants depending on the plant. But there is no one plant that we eat every part of. All right, so that is all of the parts of our plant. We didn't talk a whole lot about stalks, but stalks are the part that grow above the ground from where it attaches to the roots up to the leaves. Okay, so now you are going to do your parts of a plant activity. Have fun with that.